Let thy soul lend its ear to every cry of pain, like as the lotus bears its heart to drink the morning sun. Let not the fierce sun dry one tear of pain, before thyself hast wiped it from the sufferer's eye. But let each burning human tear drop on thy heart, and there remain, nor ever brush it off until the pain that caused it is removed. And many of us are very familiar with the above words from The Voice of the Silence by H.P. Blavatsky, and delight in reading them and taking in their poetic beauty, as indeed is true of The Voice of the Silence in general. But how many of us are able to live up to the teachings in that book and weave them into the very fabric of our lives? I'm afraid that not many of us are capable of such unselfish actions and remain as outside admirers of the concepts embodied in the verses of that work. So is all lost? Well, nothing is ever lost. A Theosophical Master has written, as the lost jewel may be recovered from the very depths of the tank's mud, so can the most abandoned snatch himself from the mire of sin, if only the precious gem of gems, the sparkling germ of Atma, is developed. Each of us must do that for himself or herself. Each can if he but will and persevere. Good resolutions are mind-painted pictures of good deeds, fancies, daydreams, whisperings of the buddhi to the manas, or the intuition to the mind. If we encourage them, they will not fade away like a dissolving mirage in the Shamo desert, but grow stronger until one's whole life becomes the expression and outward proof of the divine motive within. So the watchword of the Masters is try. That seems trite, but is magical. We can only try and do our best within our own framework of being. We are all different and must never feel constrained or guilty because of our inability to live up to the ideals expressed in The Voice of the Silence, the Bhagavad Gita, the Sermon on the Mount, the Dhammapada, and countless other spiritual guidebooks. That will surely erect a barrier between ourselves and the highest self, if we allow words to prevent us from growing at our own pace and in our own way. There is nothing on the spiritual path that is not helpful in some way or another, even if we do not see it that way at the time. I think the basis of everything is love. I really do. Not the sentimental love we see in films and on TV, nor the sensuality that modern society confuses with love, but an harmonic resonance that is in every heart and is the seed of something that takes us beyond the perimeters of our earthly minds and into realms that a higher mind finds conducive to its existence and its growth. This love is a beneficence that heals and uplifts. It is indeed what the universe is, beyond the illusions conjured up by the lower mind, based upon a self-centered focusing and all that is born from such a limited view of life. Gautama Buddha in the Dhammapada says, "The sage, his ignorance dissolved in awareness, abides sorrowless at the summit of insight, and looks upon the deluded sorrowing masses as one gazing from a mountaintop on the valley below." End of quote. Mentally, we need to try to take this stance within our own ability and see how foolish mankind is in creating more and more suffering when the world is already so full of it. I think many have the idea that suffering can be ended with suffering, despite Jesus telling us that we must love our enemies, and the Buddha saying that hatred never overcame hatred, only love overcomes hatred. What is the insanity that impels human beings to hurtle pieces of metal through the air in order to maim and kill men, women and children? What misguided view would make someone abandon their families and go against the teachings of their religion to cause destruction to their brothers and sisters? Certainly the masses are deluded and sorrowing when they will take a life for the sake of scraps of paper and metal we call money, to buy more useless baubles in the world's marketplace and increase selfishness and greed. It is certainly inhuman. And this is not true humanity. This is a sad production of misunderstanding, misrepresentation and mistake, an inability to go beyond the physical and sense the oneness of all things. When you see a baby, a child, a young person, a middle-aged person and an elderly person, intuitively you should know that you have been and will be that being. There is no separateness, except as a great dire heresy, and there is only the true basis for a real compassion, not one based upon delusional thoughts and sentimental emotionalism. When you finally are able to get some inkling of this truth, you will know that you never again can consciously harm any living thing. That is not to say you won't go through mistake or neglect or thoughtlessness, but the consciousness and the conscious desire to do so will be gone from your psyche, not all at once maybe, but over a period of time, greater or lesser according to intent, sincerity and determination. The danger is in clinging too much to the dead letter of the teachings and thinking that a mastery of that is the be-all and end-all of the path. What we are to become in time has no name and no form. It is way beyond anything we may conceptualize, and the only way we can ever reach it is to try. And we are all it, even if some are clouded by thoughts and emotions and act from a conceptualized view of what they imagine from their own stance to be reality. The Tao Te Ching says, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of myriad things. Our limitations in understanding reality is what brings the world, as we perceive it, into existence. Form is limitation, and the more we come to understand, the more form dissolves. This is the essential basis of the processes described in the Secret Doctrine by H.P. Blavatsky. As humanity progresses to become what it always was and is. The whole thing is the dispelling of delusory and illusory concepts, and humanity and the world around us changes as more and more illusions are shed. Compassion arises from this dissolving of the delusion that we are separate from each other. The same consciousness animates us all, and we must try to see the divine in others, despite the outer form, which is only a passing phantasm. A Chinese poet described time as a galloping colt seen through a crack in the wall. This gives the idea of the fleeting nature of life and the transience of it all. Love arises from the fact that we are all striving to awaken to the same truth, and we therefore are all the same and on an identical journey. Therefore we are all brothers and sisters. So no matter how difficult life seems, and no matter how many times we fail or fall by the wayside, there is always hope if we but try. There's an old Japanese saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8.